Congress of Vienna. This arrived in my GMT box of stuff from this month where they're shipping out 14 titles. Thankfully, I didn't get dinged for a lot. I only ordered two things, Hoplite and Congress of Vienna and the errata counter sheet, which is a small addendum to games that I already own. So this is Great Statesman Series Volume 4, System Design Mark Herman. Game design, Frank Esparago. Terry leads with the graphics. Beautiful presentation here. Diplomacy, Negotiation, and War in Europe, 1813 to 1814. What is this? This is kind of the next game that sort of derives its lineage from Churchill, from Versailles 1919, and from Pericles, which are the three games in the quote-unquote series that came before this. I don't know that I would... I mean, they're a series in the sense that they are all games about diplomacy and conflict, but they play all so drastically differently that I don't know that I would say that they are linked by any sort of series conventions beyond using cards, or in like Versailles' case, not even using cards, to achieve diplomatic ends between different asymmetrical political bodies, let's say. So Congress of Vienna is, as you would guess, about the end of the Napoleonic Wars. It takes place from the very, after basically Napoleon's failed invasion of Russia, through sort of his first capture, it looks like. And it is a game, I believe, for 4 players. And you will be working cooperatively, or in some cases possibly semi-cooperatively, to try and dictate the fate of Europe in the wake of Napoleon's hopeful defeat. And it looks really interesting. So here's a quick start rule summary. This is new, I think, from GMT. I don't know that I've seen this very often. This is a rule book, I guess, to get you up and running quickly, kind of like Fantasy Flight does, I guess. Let's take a look real quick. Quick Start is intended for new players to help them learn key aspects of the standard game rulebook without needing to rely on the much longer full rulebook. That's pretty nice. Doesn't contain the optional historical rules. That's pretty cool. So this is a good way that you can get up and going. That's cool. So the major powers in this game: Austria, Britain, France, and Russia. The minor powers: Spain, Portugal, Sweden, Prussia, and the United States. And that is interesting that the United States is in here. I do know that this game does cover parts of the War of 1812, which is actually really cool. We always forget here in the U.S. that a lot of people consider the War of 1812 a theater of the Napoleonic Wars, especially in 1814, after Napoleon was defeated and the British surged in troops to Canada. So, and also burned the White House. So that's cool that this is included here. So this kind of, I mean, this is pretty dense, a lot of text here, but this is a quick start. So you just probably kind of read through this and, get a sense of what the game is all about. Maybe use it as you start your first game to learn it. And we've got some charts and tables here. So the actual quick start rules are only 8 pages, which is quite nice. And then we've got some tables to refer to. And on the back, we have got a issues, resolution, and effects. So like other games in this series, you're going to have issues that are going to be sort of put into the center of the table. And then players are going to debate those issues using some sort of mechanic here. Probably cards, but I don't know. Here's the full rule book. Or sorry, this is the playbook. The playbook has a detailed example of play, scenarios and game setup. So we've got Napoleon Resurgent, the spring of 1813 introductory short scenario, the Clash of Armies, the summer and fall struggle of 1813, and this is a really interesting period in the Napoleonic Wars, probably one of the most interesting campaigns of the Napoleonic period. The Liberation War for Germany, 1813, this is a tournament scenario, probably includes Dresden and Leipzig in there. Desperate Times, the France campaign of 1814, that sounds kind of interesting, and the full campaign game, which I understand is a 10-turn game, just like Churchill. You can play 2 players, you can play 3 players. There's a solitaire scenario, Lutzen and Bautzen. This game does have solo rules, which is kind of cool. Applying the CDGSM, I don't know what that is. Card-driven game solo. That must be the solo stuff. Yeah, solo for French play, solo for coalition play. A lot of this book is actually about the solo rules, which is kind of interesting. Let's just take a look at page 36 real quick. I just want to see what the CDGSM means. To solve our dilemma about how to make the diplomacy phase exciting, simple, and fast, we began to carry out a deep review of other games. Then we discovered the CDG solo system by Stuka Joe and Ken Kuhn, and we thought we had found the Sorcerer's Stone to solve our diplomacy phase. So yeah, it looks like it uses that system, which GMT does sell kits for their various games, to use those rules for this game. And all those rules are here, it looks like, so you don't need to buy those necessarily. And this would be rules if you're playing France versus if you're playing the coalition. Quite nice playbook there. We've got the rules of play. This is a hefty, chunky book. Really nicely graphically laid out. This is the tactical matrix for battles on the back. These are the optional historical rules tables. So we've got like a little battle table, which is cool. That's interesting. They did talk about this game being more wargamey, which is kind of nice. Whatever this is, I'm not sure. We have got an index that comes in at 55 pages before the back cover. Here's the credits. This looks like optional rules, sudden death time limit. Yeah, optional historical rules. You bet I'm going to probably play with those. Denmark and Norway involved in that. So the rules go to page 48, which is significantly longer and seemingly more involved than Churchill. So this is going to be really interesting to dig into, to see what exactly this is bringing to the table for the Great Statesman series. We have got some player aids. So actually, first of all, we have got some stickers for army blocks. Oh, that's very nice touch. And we have got some player aids. So we have got a single double-sided player aid. There's probably going to be 4 of these. We've got the sequence of play. There's a government phase, a war phase, end of turn phase. Victory point summaries for all the possible situations that give you VPs. The issues resolution priority summary. We've got the national advantages for each of the 4 players. Battle DRMs if you're using the standard combat. Replacement spaces guide, so where you get your replacements, it looks like. And War of 1812 gets its own table. That's pretty nice. So clearly it plays a big role in the game for it to get its own table. Looks like there's 4 of these. Yep, there are. I like the color scheme here, the purple, the royal purple. Here is the Allied Bot Player Aid. This is a double fold-out. Tables that you'll use. I don't know how much I'm going to play this game solo. I don't tend to play games solo, but this is nice that they have this in here. Here's the French bot. So if you're playing the coalition against the French, you got that. We have got 1 sheet of counters. These are pre-rounded in the typical Churchill style. We've got resources, additional resources, military operations, military support, generalissimo, victory points, recruitment. These appear to be the kinds of things that you will probably be bidding on or arguing about. Got different formation for French and Allied, like tactical looking chits. I don't know if those are for the optional rules or for the regular rules. We've got some leaders, it looks like. Meddling Czar. Of course, you can always rely on the Russians in these games to be kind of antagonizing everyone else. Die roll, DRMs, at war markers, hand size markers, initial sit card, initial situation card, armistice, peace congress, and then some minor powers here: Saxony, Poland, Bavaria, Holland, etc. So these counters look quite nice. Then we have the map. We'll get to that in a moment. We've got colored dice, 2 for each of the 4 powers in the game. You can probably guess what color goes with which nation. Another bag of bags, might use those. A bunch of wooden cubes, a lot of wooden components. Here we got some cylinders, some cubes. These, it looks like they're going to be used for tracking different things on the board, possibly representing armies. I know in Churchill, the cubes represented armies. And then we have got the blocks and a giant plastic pond. That's interesting. These blocks are kind of atypically shaped. They're sort of flat and long. These must represent maybe the coalition armies or the different armies of the powers. We've got some smaller pawns in each of the 4 colors. Looks like maybe a turn track marker in there. I'm curious what this giant chess piece is all about. So yeah, we're going to be putting stickers on these. And then we have got 2 packs of cards with Andrew Jackson on the front of them. It wouldn't be the War of 1812 without Andrew Jackson. And so yeah, we'll open these in a minute, but let's spread out the map. All right, here we are looking at the map. The map is actually oriented vertically, unlike Churchill, which had more of a horizontal representation. On the left, though, we have got what is going to be the government phase of the game is primarily going to be played here. This is where you've got your negotiating table. Austria at war is always placed in the negotiating table once the armistice has been established. And then the 4 players here are going to be trying to advance issues from the negotiating table to their side of the track in order to get the effects of those issues. Here we've got the French, the Austrians, the British, and the Russians. We've got some other tracks, the Pax Britannica track down here, the British Force Pool, the initial environment table, don't know what that's all about. Here are all of the diplomatic issues that will be available. You'll put the counters here, and then when they get added to the game, they'll probably come to the table. We have got the not available till armistice markers. We have got the turn track, so here we can see each turn is 1 or 2 months, with a 10-turn game taking you to the spring of 1814 and Napoleon abdicating. Got force pools here. We have got, looks like a major power diplomacy round tracker here. French debate preemptions. That's interesting. Kind of maybe reminds me of the Soviets and Churchill a little bit. We'll have to read the rules on that. And then there's some rules about the tracks, the discard pile for the cards, and so forth. Then we come up here and we get the map of Europe, which is kind of interestingly portrayed. In Churchill, it was fairly abstract. There's a bunch of tracks. Here, it looks like they've made a little bit of an attempt to geographically represent these tracks with a map of Europe underneath it. But ostensibly, you're talking about tracks. And, the Allies are trying to march their armies probably towards Paris to win the game. And you can see that we've got different tracks connecting to other different tracks. You can see it looks like the French between the Pyrenees and Toulouse. We've got southern Spain. We've got Portugal. We've got the armies of those particular places. The War of 1812 box. So U.S. versus Britain there. That's quite interesting. Just a little key to show you what you're looking at here. It appears that you get additional cards if you make progress against the French here. So the Russians and the French, they're able to get to Hanover, for example. Victory points on specific spaces. Holland. 2 victory points in Vienna. Here's other army holding boxes. And then we've got the battle DRMs track here and the card hand size track here, just to let you know how many cards you can have in your hand for each power. And then here looks like a victory point track around the outside. So let's take a look at the cards. All right, so we got 4 decks of cards in the box. We've got the biggest deck here. These are game cards. Let's take a look at some of these. So these are going to have, looks like various effects based on what power is using them. And there's a number in the upper left. Interesting to see what this is all about. This is fairly different from Churchill, so I don't know exactly how these are going to be used. This here, +1 for debating. You might get a hand. Looks like maybe you get a hand of these cards, and then you'll either have to use them for debate or possibly hold them for different issues or events. That's King Friedrich. August the First of Saxony. Here's Talleyrand, obviously. A very well-known figure in the French or in the Napoleonic Wars. There's letters down here. I don't know if that applies to what deck these are or what scenario these apply to, or if they're for the solo game. I haven't read the rules to this game, so some of the things I'm saying may be not correct, or I may have no frame of reference, because I have played all other games in this series, but I have not really explored this one yet. This looks like it might be Austria only. Some different effects on that one. So all of these are going to be generally very similar in showing people, effects of those people. Gyulai, Radetzky, Trautmannsdorf. It's an Austrian card. Stadion. Just trying to see. Here's some Russian cards. Von Hardenberg, Wilhelm von Humboldt. So as you can see, it looks like multiple uses there in these game cards. We've also got these, Andrew Jackson was one of those. We've also got these handicap cards. These, I don't know how these are used. These look like they affect specific players. So for example, if your recruitment issue is on the negotiation table, place it at a distance of +2 on your national track. And then, yeah, so it looks like these can be played. I don't know if they're optional or whatnot, but they have different effects. Randomly take 1 game card from another player's hand and add it to your hand. Play after all players have drawn their hands. So I don't know how you get these. Maybe you earn these through doing things in the game, or they're optional to make certain things happen, or I'm not sure. We've got initial situation cards. This is a pretty sizable deck. This is going to be, these are going to be the equivalent of the conference cards, I believe. So you should have, if Churchill is any indication, you will have basically 3 versions of each of the turns in the game. Let's just see. So yeah, C3, C2, C1. Okay, so this should be B10. Yeah, it is. Okay, great. So what this is going to be initial situation. So at the beginning of each turn, you're likely going to draw one of these, and you're going to set this deck up where you're going to shuffle all 3 of the C1. Let's say you're playing scenario 1 through 3. Likely what's going to happen is you're going to shuffle all of the 1 cards, so A, B, and C1, and then one of those will be in the game and the other 2 will be returned to the box. So you get some variation each turn. And then if it's like Churchill, you'll just go down the card and do the events that happen. So here, for example, C1, Britain agrees to arm a Russian-Prussian army, place a British financial aid issue at a distance of 1 on the Russian national track, place a fleet in the War of 1812 box. So this is how you get variety to the game, and at the beginning of every turn, you will likely have these events happen. There should be probably 3. Looks like there's 3 for each turn in the game, so 30 cards here. And then the last thing we have, it's another handicap card, are these, which are probably going to be the equivalent of the leaders in Churchill. These are sort of the nation-specific cards. So we've got Metternich and his abilities and, what he does. For the British, we have got Castlereagh. his abilities. And I assume that these will be in your hand every turn. And like Churchill, you can use them once a turn for their extra powerful abilities, sort of asymmetric player powers, if you will. There's Napoleon. See, he does extra recruiting. He gets a free military op marker. You would expect Napoleon to be all about the military there. And then here we have Tsar Alexander I, things that he can do. -2 Russian DRM if it is used for British financial aid, liberalism, absolutism, or generalissimo issues. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but each player will get one of these, and it probably has them in their hand every turn. So there you go. That is a look at Congress of Vienna, a game I'm very excited to play. I really, really love Churchill, and I think setting it during the Napoleonic Wars and all of the inherent political situations that era provides is going to be a very interesting game experience, especially considering that this looks like it hews more closely to Churchill than either Pericles or Versailles 1919 does. That makes me quite excited for this, and I have some friends who are big Napoleonic history fans that I think will get a kick out of this. So I probably won't solo this one for the channel, but I will have a session report on it after I do get a chance to play it, probably at my local club sometime soon.